This is the Brave New Coin Crypto Conversation, hosted by Andy Pickering.
Hi everyone, Andy Pickering here. I'm your host and welcome to the Crypto Conversation, a Brave New Coin podcast where we talk to the people building the future in the Bitcoin, blockchain and cryptocurrency space. My guest today is Jeff Morris Jr. Jeff is a founder and he's the managing partner at Chapter One, a Web3 focused venture capital fund that works with early stage crypto UX startups. Hey, welcome to the show, Jeff.
Thanks, Andy. Excited to be here. And that was a great intro, so appreciate that.
Well, there's more I could have said in the intro, Jeff. Firstly, look, it is a pleasure to have you here. But look, you can maybe expand on this. What we usually do at the beginning of the show is, I'd love it if you could give us a little bit of a sense of who you are and your backstory leading up to Chapter One. But yeah, one data point that I thought was pretty interesting. You're a former VP of product and revenue at Tinder. So that's that's kind of interesting. I'm sure people are fascinated by that.
Yeah, I had a great 4.5 years at Tinder. So I joined in 2015 as the third person on the product team, but we had already kind of achieved product market fit. We were in over 180 countries, and we were trying to figure out how to build a business. So we were starting to monetize Tinder, and I was the head of revenue and built all of our subscription features. But taking a step back, I was grew up in the Bay Area and was always interested in technology growing up, and worked at a handful of failed startups. So it wasn't just like wake up and work at Tinder. I had a lot of real kind of like startup experience that showed me how hard this industry can be, and was really lucky to join Tinder at kind of the right place and the right time. And while I was at Tinder, probably more relevant to this audience, really got into crypto around 2016, and we were selling subscriptions and digital goods at Tinder, and I started to look at crypto as being the next great business model for digital assets. And I launched a very, very small crypto fund in 2018. It was a $500,000 fund to get started, and had some lucky things happen, but ended up investing in the seed rounds of Dapper Labs and The Graph and Compound Finance. And the industry was a lot smaller back then. You pretty much knew most companies when they were fundraising. Like, you probably could hear about it, and you definitely knew who all the venture funds were. And the industry is much bigger now across the board, venture funds, founders, and we've created now a crypto fund with a very similar focus, and I can go into that. But broadly, the goal has always been to help make crypto more accessible and more user-friendly, because we all feel it every day when we use crypto products that they're just too hard to use. There's too much friction, and so we've built a team to help solve that.
Yeah, very nice, Jeff. All right, well, let's learn a bit about Chapter One then. So I've been looking at your website, and I've got to say it's a cool website. It's a little bit quirky. It's pretty slick. There seems to be a little bit of a theme around chapters and storytelling, narrative and different characters, and yeah, I quite enjoy that. So I don't know, wherever you want to begin, tell us about Chapter One. We're at the early stages of the story, Jeff.
Yeah, I think if you've ever worked at a company, it often feels like a large story. It could be a novel or an epic, but there's so many different chapters to building a company. And what I've always found to be the most interesting chapter is that 0 to 1 phase, where you're trying to find product market fit. And I think there's like two parts of a company in my mind. There's pre-product market fit and post-product market fit. And the things that you do pre-product market fit and kind of all the character building that's required to make that happen. To me, like, there's a lot more, there's very interesting stories to tell. And we're entirely focused on the seed stage, which I think within crypto is also unique. You have a lot of a lot of great funds in the space who are running hedge fund strategies. They have growth funds, they have early stage funds, and we really made a promise to ourselves and to founders that we are committed to early stage investing, which is much different. Like the things you need as a founder and the things that are required from a company building perspective are very different when you're in your, call it like years 1 to 3, and kind of like post product market fit. The skill sets amongst investors and what they're good at is very different. And so we've kind of made a commitment to building the best fund to help founders who are trying to find product market fit. And part of doing that was going out and recruiting a team that was this really kind of unique hybrid of people who had worked at large consumer internet companies. So Tinder, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and some others, but who had displayed a real interest in crypto through either their side projects or personal investing or things they were doing outside of work. But we think there's benefits to approaching crypto from the lens of having built large consumer scale products. And we try and bring that point of view to founders. And so that's kind of what we've done and what we're excited to keep doing.
Nice. And of course, Jeff, every fund, every VC, every investor, really, you need a thesis, right? You need something that you believe to be true. And of course, the earlier you can get to that belief before the rest of the world, providing that you're right, of course, the better you'll do, and the more powerful that investment thesis can be as it begins to play out. Now, you guys have got on your, as I've described it, very quirky but very cool website. You've got an interesting section on, I guess you call it, you say themes that we believe in. So I guess that's another way of saying some potential investment thesis areas. But I'd love it if you just kind of, nutshell each one, because I think they're really interesting. The first one is what you call a multiplayer money, Jeff. What is multiplayer money?
Yeah, I think multiplayer money is this idea that with on-chain assets and digital assets, you can finally enable very social financial activities in a much more seamless way. So if you think about like one of the companies I love talking about and thinking about, Gnosis Safe, now Brenna is Safe, but if you think about, there's over 200,000 group shared bank accounts in safes, representing over $50 billion of assets. If you think about how you would do that in a non-crypto world, if you and I wanted to open a bank account together and we called a bank and we said, hey, we're friends, we want to coordinate financial activities together, and it could be for investing, it could be for distributing capital to people who are doing work for us, like that would be nearly impossible. And so we think we're very pragmatic about what utility crypto provides, and I'm fairly sure that financial coordination is just easier on chain. And so you hear a lot of crypto skeptics claim there's like zero utility in the space, and I think multiplayer money and social money, this idea that you can do things on chain, you can investment DAOs are a great example, but you can finally do very frictionless investing together. All these ideas are just really exciting to me. And part of why it's exciting is I kind of think there were pretty much every vertical has become social over time. So if you think about dating as an example, like dating before Tinder wasn't very digital, it wasn't very young and social. And with Tinder, it became like okay to talk about your online dating. Whatever you're doing online, like that became like a social topic. And now like money was the last thing in my mind that had not been made social before crypto. And part of one of the use cases of crypto, which I think is just overlooked, is that like crypto is now or investing in anything money related with digital assets it's a very social activity. It's a part of your identity and what you talk about online and who you hang out with if you're in DAOs. So we're really excited about this area, and we think finally money is social, and it's really fun to do things on chain with your friends.
Yep, I agree with you, Jeff. I enjoyed that, and I really like the term multiplayer money. So we'll see if that catches on anywhere. But I think it's a good one. The next story or chapter or theme that you guys believe in at chapter one, Jeff, the next billion owners. So I think we can kind of get a sense as to what you mean there. But what do you mean? Next billion owners, Jeff?
Yeah, I think if you've ever owned any public equity, or you've been fortunate enough to be an employee at a tech company, you've seen ownership impact your life in a positive way. There are different ways to achieve financial independence and to really kind of like control your own destiny financially, but being an owner is core to so much of what's driven wealth. Really, for so many people in tech, having equity in companies that you help build is really foundational to achieving financial prosperity. And we kind of view the next wave of the internet being and tokens and what they enable being so based in ownership. And we've heard obviously the ownership economy has been a big theme of this wave, but we really believe that where Web3 properties and companies will be able to overtake Web2 will be through ownership and giving ownership back to end users. And next billion owners means there should be billions of people who own parts of the internet and who own parts of kind of real world assets through tokens. And we believe that it will only take like one or two big properties. So if and we're starting to see that with different Web2 properties, kind of introducing different forms of crypto. But we think the goal should be that everybody who uses the internet should own parts of the internet, and that's billions of people already. So we're hoping that's the future that we all help build.
Fantastic. I hope so too, Jeff. And finally, the last theme, and I like the title of this one too, manifesting cult communities. So of course, Web3 very big on a community, and well, from anyone on the outside, they probably do see people as belonging to some kind of weird crypto cult or NFT cult or Web3 cult. And sometimes the flip side of that, of course, is even when you are in one of these communities, or let's say cults, they can feel like cults, but in a positive way, and that they're it's like a secret society with kind of unique crypto symbols, crypto rituals. So you can compare that to a kind of secret society experience. But look, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Jeff. What do you mean by the manifestation of cult communities?
Yeah, really. If you think about the power of crypto, and again, in terms of aligning incentives and creating shared ownership, it's so much of it's just based around communities, and the communities that you own or co-own create just a huge part of your identity is attached to those communities. And we've seen, if you look at communities in Web2, there was a strong alliance with different brands and projects, but we think that alliance will become so much stronger in crypto when you actually own a part of the networks. You're much more incentivized to contribute, and we've seen, like, as a starting point to build a great community, you need values and you need a mission that's largely driven by often by a core team. So, in Web3 and crypto, it's not always one person, but it's usually a group of radical thinkers who create some mission that people are inspired by. And it doesn't even need to be like a serious mission. It could be something like buying like Constitution DAO, which was, famously had like its moment last year. That was just a group of people who thought it'd be really unique and cool and fun to try and buy the U.S. Constitution. And so these are just some of the ideas, but we think that brands will be, if Web2 brands were able to build, call it cults, and you've seen this with Apple, and there's a lot of different versions of this. We think the Web3 cults will be much stronger. And we say cults. Cults can be obviously a very polarizing word because we're trying to look at the more positive view of like the strongest communities you can imagine that are built around kind of like changing the world and doing breakthrough things together.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really nice framing. I'm just curious, Jeff, maybe this is putting you on the spot a little bit, but I'd love to kind of understand how you would think about this from, let's say, a product perspective. If you took, I would just use the Tinder as an example. You can use it or not, but, how would you see something like Tinder playing out in like a Web3 context, maybe over the next 10 years or so? Can you think of some ways that Tinder could evolve to become a Web3 dating app, and what would that look like, and would there be any advantages?
Yeah, I think probably in the case of like a big mainstream company like Tinder, you probably hide the crypto elements of it. You might have tokens, but you probably wouldn't call them crypto necessarily. Where I think something like Tinder could be interesting in a Web3 context is you have this community that's built upon trust, and there are a lot of people who would be incentivized to try and build a healthy, safe community. And so much of what we tried to solve for at Tinder, especially on the trust and safety side, was just around incentivizing good behavior. And so when I think about, we had a trust and safety team that was largely, they were based in the Philippines largely, and they were just like relative to our user base, a very small group of people trying to manage. We had over 200 million downloads when I left. So but call it north of 60 million users. And so you have these small teams trying to basically create a healthy, safe community. And I think if you had some like ownership model where the community was incentivized to kind of create the right standards of kind of like behavior, you could end up having potentially an interesting use case. I will say this, I get a ton of Web3 dating pitches, and I think it's very tough. I think at the core of why people download Tinder and why they want to use the product, it's mainly because they want a reliable place to find dates, and that comes from having network effects. And so I think just saying, hey, this is like the Web3 version of Tinder or dating property, similar to, we see a lot of Web3 versions of Facebook or Uber or whatever else it might be. I think you need to be doing something fundamentally different. And I'm not necessarily sure if crypto solves that in the case of dating, but I do think on the community side, you could probably build a really interesting trust and safety model to help create a more healthy platform.
Yeah, I think, I can imagine some kind of like on-chain dating reputation, which you can see the advantages there, because you can see, well, this person has been on 100 dates with 100 different people around the world, and no one has red flagged them. But at the same time, even if you can kind of keep that on-chain reputation anonymous or pseudo-anonymous, it's a little bit dystopian to think about that as well. There's advantages and disadvantages like anything.
Yeah, I think probably around reputation, and again, like that's where my initial ideas would be. The truth is that dating apps and properties, especially anything that has network effects, are disincentivized put any of these things on chain, because one, you're opening up your data set to competitors, and two, you start to, like, if you think about what Web 2, the value of many Web 2 properties is just owning the data and owning the network. And so it's very hard to incentivize people to disrupt their own business model. And I don't think it would have to be some completely new version that just doesn't currently exist.
Yep. Another thing you guys are doing at Chapter One, so it looks like you have what you call some Web3 products. You have Chapter One Studios, I think, a Web3 incubator by Chapter One, focusing on building generational companies through exceptional product design, community, and more. And so that's studios, and you also have labs, which I think is just a kind of more R&D or R&E, research and experiments branch, right? So what's happening with studios and labs, Jeff?
Yeah, studios, we've always loved the earliest stages of company formation. So there's a group of founders in tech and crypto and non-crypto that are almost like they're definitely pre-company, but they're still in the idea maze, trying to figure out exactly what they want to build. So it's almost akin to like a entrepreneur in residence model, where you have really talented founders who are trying to basically figure out what they want to build. And we found in crypto, especially in a bear market, there's not a lot of people who are willing to fund ideas that are that rough in development. And we, in the ethos of Chapter One, have a lot of people who've worked in, all of our team has worked in either product engineering or design, and we actually like to build things. And so I think part of launching studios was for founders, but it was also for us to go as an excuse to not just like deploy capital all day or invest in companies. And we really like to kind of roll up our sleeves and help build too. So we have one company in the studios right now working on the multiplayer money thesis. So they're building a mobile product that allows really easy group trading of digital assets. And then labs, I think, is probably the more like, it's where we're spending more of our time right now. And labs has become a really interesting university program. It's actually, we've partnered with over 20 of the top universities throughout the world. And we found that college students are a pretty underserved market in terms of having help with exploring research topics, getting funding for those research topics, and then more so connecting with each other. So we've created a program where university students from all over the world right now are researching together. And so a lot of universities have blockchain clubs, but they're not able to collaborate with other blockchain clubs. And so we're trying to create a network that allows universities to collaborate, the blockchain clubs at different universities to collaborate. And so you have just a really interesting, we think the most passionate people, even in a bear market, are college students, because they're just not as impacted by like the daily market fluctuations. Like, they're really in crypto because they think the technology and social movements behind it are interesting. And so we're spending a lot of time right now trying to work with college students to help them with their research.
Yeah, that's interesting, Jeff. And yeah, I mean, speaking of the bear market, then I'd love to get your thoughts on, I suppose, how you see this playing out. Crypto just goes in cycles. That's fair enough. People are used to these bear and bull cycles, and even apart from the crypto bear market cycles, it's just the way the world is at the moment. There's a lot of turmoil in all global markets. So one of the narratives I see emerging at the moment is actually whether Bitcoin and crypto can kind of decouple from this correlation to stocks and equities. tech stocks particularly. So that's one thing to watch. But also in terms of kind of Web3, like, you know, the NFT bubble was a great example of kind of this great and incredible wave of almost mainstream adoption, which is great to see, because, you know, it's like there's only a certain segment of the population are ever going to be really excited by the promise and potential of a decentralized, censorship-resistant blockchain. But, you know, collectible art, music, or whatever it is on the blockchain, that is just an easier on-ramp, I think, for mainstream adoption. So, long way of saying, where do you see this kind of next wave of Web3 adoption? Where does it come from? And maybe you can bring in, I saw you had like a cool mini essay on your Twitter, Jeff, where you talked about this a little bit, I think in the context of, you know, what will bring crypto to mainstream mobile audiences. So yeah, maybe that's where you could begin.
Yeah, I think part of the bear market, which I think is really healthy, is it gives us time to ask ourselves hard questions about. So there were so many exciting tailwinds in crypto over the past year, right? And we're still very much in the early experimental phases of what, especially on the application, like what these applications will look like and what they'll do. That we spent, and I've spent the past, really the past 4 or 5 months trying to figure out through data where does actual product market fit exist in crypto, and what are unlocks that will basically increase the TAM, or the total user base of the space. And we see it, this is like the disconnect between the public narrative and kind of what we see doing this all day. We see a lot to be really optimistic about. And so as far as the crypto market fit piece, the idea there was, if you look at Uniswap and you compare it to Web2 properties, you actually don't need you don't need the scale in terms of total user base populations in Web3 as you do in Web2 to create really valuable networks. So in the case of Uniswap, they have, I think, 10,000 daily active traders. It could be a little less than that, but they're creating very similar economic value to Robinhood, which has 8 million monthly traders. And so the what we're trying to explore right now is like, how do we kind of reconstruct the metrics in Web3 where the use cases are so based in financial applications? So there's a natural value to these networks that doesn't require millions and millions of people to create value. And so that's one example. I mentioned Safe earlier, having over 200,000 multi-sigs. Some of the interesting things we're seeing are this, and a lot of this was in motion during the bull market, but a lot of major Web2 properties and also huge brands are starting to release their crypto projects, which they were working on over the past 6 to 12 months. So you saw last week or 2 weeks ago with Reddit launching their crypto offering, and they had 3 million wallets created within a week. We saw over the summer Nike released their NFT collection. They had over $190 million in direct revenue to Nike, and over $1 billion in secondary revenue on their NFT collection. That was their first real attempt at doing NFTs. We're seeing almost every major Web2 brand, or not even Web2, these are just major global brands. So if you think of Starbucks and their NFT product, and then you look at Facebook and Instagram in the US last week released you can now connect a Rainbow wallet within Instagram and share those NFTs within your activity feed or on your stories. And so we're seeing, and then Twitter in an Elon Musk owned world is now going to be much more crypto focus, or they'll have more crypto interest. And so I think the honest answer, and maybe it's not super popular with every crypto native listener, is just there's going to be this convergence between Web 2 and Web 3. And my hope is that we welcome Web 2 properties to crypto, because ultimately what matters is just getting more people into the ecosystem. And once they're introduced to crypto, and it could be through Twitter, it could be through Reddit, Facebook, whatever it might be, that gets them on the path of going down the rabbit hole, and they can choose kind of how far they want to go, and what parts of crypto matter to them, whether it's decentralization that appeals to them, or maybe they just want to own an NFT and be part of an NFT community. But I really think over the next year or two, there's going to be this huge unlock, and it's going to come from Web 2 embracing Web 3. And then the last point would just be Web 3 and crypto aren't very mobile yet. And there's over 5 billion people around the world that access the internet through their phone. And so we're hoping to see more mobile first properties. That's been hard because of Apple and Google, as you've seen. But we're pretty sure that for crypto to really hit global mainstream usage, mobile will have to be a huge part of it. So that's the last part.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you for sharing your thoughts there, Jeff. I reckon we go to a very quick break, then we will come back. We'll have some fun. We'll run you through the very famous Crypto Conversation hot take round. Back in 1 second.
In today's crypto market, the team at Brave New Coin are the sector's leading builders of custom crypto indices. BNC's powerful indexing engine draws on Brave New Coin's premium data to calculate high-frequency intraday and end-of-day indices for a wide range of index products. BNC's custom indices help you to gain exposure to the crypto assets class and track your performance against the market without having to become a stock picker. Not sure what you need? A Brave New Coin consultant can help you assess your requirements. Contact BNC today to find out more.
All right, we are back, and I'm with Jeff Morris Jr. As we've heard, Jeff is founder and managing partner of Chapter One, Web3 focused venture capital fund, working with early stage crypto, UX startups, and so on. Hey, Jeff, I like to finish each podcast with a quick round of rapid fire crypto conversation hot takes. Are you up for it?
I love hot takes. It's very easy in crypto, so let's do it.
Yeah, very nice. Just going to run some questions at you, Jeff. Just want you to answer them any way you like, hot take style. Question one for you, Jeff. Where would you say that you sit on the Bitcoin maximalist to multi-chain opportunist spectrum?
I love Bitcoin. I've been a holder for over 10 years. The truth is, I think a multi-chain world, again, to our goal of accessibility and bringing more users into the space, allows more experimentation and more potentially more mainstream adoption. So we're pro multi-chain. We don't think there needs to be a layer one, thousands of layer ones, but there's been really interesting use cases for many different chains.
Yep, hard to argue with that. And as I always say, it's fine to hold and believe in Bitcoin, but also support a multi-chain world. The two are not mutually exclusive. But Jeff, what would you say is your firmest conviction crypto opinion?
I think my firmest conviction is that most of the best use cases, especially within DeFi, probably exist outside the United States, and that in order for this market to really grow, venture capitalists and the people financing the ecosystem should be looking outside the US more. And so if you think of Southeast Asia or markets like Vietnam, Philippines, there's just really interesting Argentina, really interesting real world use cases that we should be spending more time talking about.
Yes, indeed. All right. Well, Bill Gates famously said that we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in 2 years and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. As a product guy, you'll be very familiar with this, Jeff. But, if you cast your mind forward then 10 years, let's just say Web3, what does it start to look like in 10 years' time?
Yeah, I think honestly, I think we won't even be using the word Web3. I think we'll just be talking about the internet, and ownership will be a huge part of it. But my hope is that crypto and Web3 are so successful that we don't even need to have the delineation between Web2 and Web3. It's just going to be the internet, and I truly think we're going to get there, and it'll almost be healthier because we can stop fighting with each other, and we can just work on building cool shit together. So I'm excited for that future.
Me too. Flip side of this is a quote by William Gibson, who famously said, Jeff, that the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. Can you think of an example of the future being here right now, but most people just aren't really aware of it?
Yeah, I think the metaverse is my favorite example. I think we're already living in the metaverse. Andy, we're having a conversation on Zoom that will be published to your entire user base, and we've never met, but we're here having a great conversation. Most of us live the majority of our lives online. It's not in a metaverse world like you're being pitched it by Facebook, but I kind of think the metaverse is here already, and we're already living in the metaverse every single day.
I love it. Yes, indeed. All right. Time to zoom out. Time to get weird. Just for a second, Jeff, what do you see as the long-term future for the human race? Do you see dystopia or utopia?
I see utopia, but it's going to take a lot of things to go well over the next 10 years. I think right now it's probably the scariest time to be a human, except at least for me, since I've been alive with global wars in the US alone, just the amount of hate between political parties and our inability to get anything done. And then you just look at kind of like the post-COVID society with people struggling to kind of like readapt to the world. I think I'm paid to be an optimist and view the world through that lens, but man, it's scary to wake up some days.
Couldn't agree more. All right, let's close this out, Jeff. Scary times. What is your favorite science fiction book, film, or TV show?
That's a great question. Gosh, I've always really liked, I think probably like Gattaca. I don't know if you remember Gattaca.
Yeah, I remember Gattaca. Great film.
I was a huge fan of Gattaca. And I really, I always loved science fiction films. I think it's kind of sad. I feel like we're not seeing the same appetite for science fiction in Hollywood. But God, there were so many. Minority Report's another classic. I love Minority Report.
Yeah.
And so I actually, I went to film school at USC, and my thesis film was a science fiction film where everybody at the age of 18 was told how much, to the exact day, how much longer they had to live. And it looked at what that does to someone's life when you actually know the length of your life, what decisions you make and how you do things differently. But I've always loved science fiction.
And shout out to Gattaca then, which was a 1997 dystopian sci-fi thriller written and directed by Andrew Niccol, starring Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman. And the film presented a biopunk vision of a future society driven by eugenics, where potential children are conceived through genetic selection to ensure they possess the best hereditary traits of their parents. So it's kind of taking evolution out of the equation and really playing survival of the fittest type games with your own children. And funny thing about that is you can see this that potential dystopian future starting to become true. But, you know, that is what sci-fi is all about. It shows us the best and the worst possible future outcomes.
I was going to say, it feels like we're already living in Gattaca.
Absolutely. I haven't seen it for a while, but I remember great kind of art direction and costume design, and it was like a slick, cool looking film. So was Minority Report, of course, but yeah. Andrew, Jeff, So much fun talking to you today. Thank you for coming on the show. Nothing else to say really, except hand the metaphorical microphone back to your good self. Please tell the people where they can find you on Twitter or wherever else you like to hang out online. And of course, where people can go to learn more about what you and the team are doing at Chapter One.
Yeah, absolutely. This was so much fun. So thank you again. But you can find me on Twitter, just JMJ. So at JMJ, and then chapter1.com. So chapter 0ne.com. And love this conversation. So thank you again.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jeff. All the best, and bye for now.
Thanks, Andy.
All right, there you go. That was Jeff from Chapter One. Yeah, nice guy. I enjoyed talking to Jeff. Great choice there at the end with Gattaca. I gave the synopsis, so I won't talk about it more. And I think we have come to the end of another episode. Thank you, team, for listening to the Crypto Conversation. Please make sure you subscribe to the podcast in whatever podcast app you are using. Give us a 5-star review, rating, all that good stuff. But yeah, see you next time. See you real soon. This was the Crypto Conversation for Brave and New Coin. See ya.